Sup everybody, this is Karak with ACG, and as always it's my continuing mission to bring you reviews that aren't 2 minutes long or filled with sponsored bullcrap, and today I'm a full 1019 as a return to the same blood, sweat, and filth of the original title that I covered years ago. It's a little game called This Is the Police, and today it's This Is the Police 2, which has you entering the world's worst witness protection program as you dive into the crime-filled lives of those who live in a small podunk town named Sharpwood. But don't think the stress, long hours, and packing down an entire Warwick Davis of donuts is behind you, because Sharpwood is no ordinary run-of-the-mill backwards town. Because you find out pretty quickly that Sharpwood makes Camden look like friggin' Disneyland. No lie, I'm pretty sure most crime organizations would take one look at this place and nope the hell out of here. So let's see if we have what it takes to 1024 all the 1031s before we can 1042. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. So here's my review for This Is the Police 2. Big city crime, small city time, the power of VCR tapes, and what happens when no one wants to work with anyone else. Graphics are up first. I think it's pretty easy to note that This Is the Police 2 is a fairly large graphical upgrade from the original, from the cutscenes with their smoother mo-capped visuals and emotive, if still a bit papier-mâché cutout look, to the city map, which has a much cleaner, detailed appearance throughout it. Everything in This Is the Police 2 stands out as an improvement from the last title. Now make no mistake, this game isn't Doom or anything. It's not throwing particles at your face like confetti at a wedding. In fact, it's never really doing much, and it is solidly in that static simulator style of game mode throughout it. But there's no denying it's just a nice, clean look with a cartoon vibe that offers more readability than the prior title. Now, performance-wise, this thing isn't going to stress most PCs. Hell, it probably wouldn't even stress a Sega Saturn. It's not that kind of game, with most of the action being you watching a pork wagon roll up on a deserted warehouse so you can send in your officers to rough them up. And various turn-based battles, you're not really pushing a ton of polygons there either. And so even a fairly low-powered rig is going to be able to run this at 60 FPS. Now, speaking of the turn-based battles, I will say that's one place where the game does slightly change up things for the better. In major SWAT-style moments, the game has you taking turns with the enemy, moving your officers around small maps like abandoned homes and heroin clinics as you take out the criminals before they can take you out, or worse yet, send one of your hostages on a dirt nap. As a complete package, This Is the Police 2 isn't exactly a looker, but it's come a long way from the original, and that improved readability as well as the more current look throughout just does elevate it a bit. Sound, music, and voice.
I respect your experience, I do, and I just want to say there are rules that must be respected, and I believe that these rules are an integral part.
A basket of strawberries. Do you see it? Has he already started eating?
And you know what? Let's do music first. This is friggin' all over the place. I'm pretty sure they channeled my Spotify playlist into the game and said, yep, we're good. 1 second it's playing improv jazz, the next hipping out a techno-based soundtrack that sounds more in line with a Wipeout-style video game than sending officers to break up a school fight. It's an odd mix, and this also results in many musical tracks that really do not fit. The jazzy and more subdued elements absolutely work to solidify the fiction and the game board feel of the main title. But when techno starts, it reminds me of if the movie Conan would have had someone piping in a fucking Beyonce song as the main theme. Overall, I'd say it's good, but only about one half of the tracks really seem to fit. Sound. Well, This Is the Police 2 is like the status quo. It's like its original, with barely any real sounds. When you jump into the turn-based maps, there are a couple sounds that play out audibly, but still, it's sort of a wasteland. Sure, when you drop somebody with a baton or shoot somebody in the nuts with a taser, there's a little bit of audio that plays, but overall, the game doesn't really have that much to offer on this front, and when it does, it never really tries to sound that convincing. And in fact, this is one of the places where I think the game really fails, because when I shoot somebody in the nuts with a taser, I want it to sound like a friggin' watermelon's being thrown against a power line, and instead, you just hear this, and that's about it. Of course, that brings us to voice. Now, this is one of those times when the choice of the voice actors is really important, but then you let them down with the plot and the direction. Sarah Hamilton takes on a major part of the narrative as Lily, a small town sheriff, as well as other actors who've returned from the original. But the narrative is actually pretty terrible. The game starts glacially, and right after a small gameplay moment, you're stuck whiling away the wee hours of the morning, listening to some person pontificate about a perp and what he did to take him out, instead of offering or adding any additional elements of drama. In fact, in ways, it's a little bit like a Tarantino film, except remove the cool parts that are in Tarantino films. When it comes to the voice work itself, there's only one or two characters that sound like they're reading from a cue card, but many elements of the first game that I liked are stretched to the breaking point here, and the story could have been elevated a great deal with a good deal of editing. Gameplay, and a bit about the story. This is The Police 2 tells the tale, or at least the starting of one of the tales, as Lily Reed takes over the job of sheriff of a small town of Sharpwood, and then from there on the story branches out until quickly you're taking on the role of disgraced and on-the-run policeman Jack Boyd from the original game, in a twist of fate and circumstance that will have almost everybody scratching their head. Jack is suddenly thrown into command with Lily, and you end up taking over the dispatch roles, investigating the mysterious circumstances of the original game, selling drugs back to drug dealers, and overall just trying to figure out how Sharpwood's hiring practices can suck so bad. I mean it. The characters in this game make the Shield look like a precinct filled with pretty good guys. Now, throughout the main game, you're watching the dispatch board. You get crime calls, and then you send out available police officers to go to each of them, or any of them, or some of them, because as you find out quickly, each officer is worth a particular number of points related to their level and attributes, and if you can't add up to the points needed, you can't do shit. But I'll get to that in a second. Now, as I said, every officer has these attributes. A stealth attribute might give you the option to sneak up on a perp, or a high negotiation can allow you to talk down a potential suicide. For example, let's say there's a peaceful strike going on at the local lumber mill, so of course you decide to send 5 jacked up police officers to make sure those rednecks know that the wood cutting cannot stop. At this point, of course, you can decide who to toss into the fray, a couple high-level officers, or maybe a good number of lower-ranked dudes itching to learn the beatdown on the job. Many crimes do have a requirement for a max number of units as well. But just like the original game, the officer's points worth nor the crimes are the only things that are taken into account here, because their attitudes matter as well, and without hesitation, this is the most surly bunch of comrades you are ever going to see since the Deadly Dozen. And this can cause you issues right from the start. So let's say you have 7 police officers that day out of 14 total. You think, man, that's not that bad, and I'm good with math. Maybe that's 50% of the police force. So hey, I'll be good with this. But then you find out quite quickly that 2 of the egotistical bastards won't work with officers lower level than them. Another won't do any jobs for you personally because they lost all loyalty to you when you unceremoniously decided to not let them skip town for a rock concert. And the other 4 don't meet the points quota of half the crimes that you receive, which can be pretty damned high. And this is The Police 2 doesn't let you even try to go out there and settle it if you don't have the points. There isn't any moment where some down on his luck, high on his blood pressure meds cop tosses the donuts into the back of the squad car and says, I got this. One problem is, This is The Police 2 runs into information delivery problems for the player. You can't see the officers' attitudes annotations at all. So you don't know who's going to work with particular officers. You just have to remember it, nor who will work with you or won't work with you. You just have to remember that. Yet the game has no problem showing you the attributes themselves, which seems oddly mismatched, especially since the attributes really matter far less than the points totals and attitudes of the officers themselves, and results in a ton of wasted time as you hit the send button after blasting out a team and the main jackass keeps saying, I don't want to babysit, blah, blah, blah. And as you remove officers, you get down to just them, and then they say, you know what, get someone else to do your dirty work. It's really a ton of gameplay or wasted time, and it's like a bunch of people robbing a bank and the cop saying, screw it, it's Sunday, I'm not showing up. Now, one nice way to balance this, at least a small amount, is with items. You can buy items like stun gun cartridges, smoke bombs, and so forth, and they usually result in pretty much 100% success at any crime you're at. And these can be goddamned godsends in the later crime sessions, when crime after crime after crime is being perpetrated by somehow the consistently breeding criminal base that apparently makes up 90% of this place. Lastly, there are some small elements of investigations. These have you performing them while you read eyewitness testimony gathered by the officers you've sent to the crime scenes, and then you put the crime together with pictures of the events. Now, as the day progresses, you also occasionally get special SWAT-style tasks, and these require a large number of men and women, and then the game turns into a turn-based strategy game, or should I say, a very, very light one, with cover and various skills attached to the attributes that you have, so you can sometimes see them play out on the field. It's a good addition, and I liked it. In fact, I liked it more than the majority of some of the other gameplay. And I think if you remember the original, not a lot of these issues are new, but its writing felt tighter, its goals clearer, and the missing information a bit less impactful. Many times, and this is The Police 2, you can be stuck thinking, what the hell is even going on? Including the story, which I have to admit about 30 minutes into, I just threw my hands up and thought to myself, well, someone's doing something bad somewhere to someone else, and that was pretty much it. Now, whether it's the SWAT actions or just normal police actions, you get points after you successfully perform them, and you're given those points to upgrade the officers involved, with each stat of which there are 6: intelligence, speed, stealth, shooting, negotiation. And as I said before, those skills do play out in all areas of the game. For example, negotiation. It has force, surrender, and interrogate, both skills that can be used in the field as well as once or twice in the actual turn-based game. I like this system, and it's easy to understand the upgrades, and they paid off in the main parts of the gameplay as well, which was always cool. Now, if you do continue to get through the day, you start to accumulate money from various little actions that occur. You might bust a drug dealer and steal his drugs, or break into the center of a warehouse robbery and come out with some movie players. All of this you can sell to characters in the game world, and that's good because you're going to have to pay off the mafia pretty soon, and they will inform the feds if you don't. It's an odd goal and not entirely without merit within the story. It's just that, like most of the elements, it's sort of half-baked. Now, as the day rolls to a conclusion, you're paid in beer tabs. Just ignore that for a second. You're awarded for saving people, some for performing specific actions, and then some are taken away if things don't work right. People are killed or crimes are left unsolved. The difference between a good and a bad day can be Gaussian. Also, I ran into a number of bugs. The most egregious was the new trainee bug. Sometimes you'll get someone fresh from the academy, and apparently this little town is so goddamn dangerous, so friggin' lethal to humanity, that the new trainee started and then on the same day just upped and fucking died. No injuries, nothing. He's just dead. I get an email saying Kevin's dead and do I want to pay for the funeral? No, man. I want to pay for an investigation. If somehow we got Flint, Michigan water imported and he drank a bunch, because why did he randomly die? I'm pretty sure the dude didn't even show up for work. It's like he died on the commute bus into the station. Simulation games really do hinge on their data delivered, and even if some things are purposefully obfuscated, you want to make sure that the gamer isn't penalized in pure time by not being able to identify the problems just because that information is missing. And this is the Police 2 really could have done with some shoring up in a number of these places. Fun factor. Despite the problems I encountered, I did have a couple enjoyable times, because when you're having a great day and you're waylaying criminals left and right without any civilians being injured, it's a pretty good feeling. But unfortunately, as the game progressed, more and more problems cropped up. And even on the good days, I always felt like the bad day was tomorrow. And you know what? This is a noir-style title, so I was okay with that. But the problem was, the game just didn't give enough information for me to even feel like it was overall balanced that well. So as you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch it again rating scale, with deep sale replacing rent on PC. And this is definitely a wait for a deep sale. It's Steven Seagal's direct-to-DVD sequels, breathy, wordy, and doing everything it can to try to hide the fat and make sure you don't realize it's a mess. Figuring out how to partner two drunks, a corrupt officer, and a dude who just hates everyone, and then throw them into a SWAT van together to take out an armed grandmother who wants to castrate her son for masturbating, and yes, that's a real case, can be very cool. But in the end, not enough information is really given to you, and everything just feels really clumsy. So that's it for me. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Maybe check out Twitter or Reddit. And of course, you can always help, especially in this age where every single video gets demonetized or copyright struck by bots, by becoming a patron on the Patreon website. I have contests where I give away all the games I review, because as you guys know, I buy every single game I review, even if I'm given a free code by the developer. Or you can join the coolest Discord there ever was. I have some swag that I give away and so forth. It is a very cool time. Either way, peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.